Hi, I'm Art Caplan from the Division of Medical Ethics at the NYU School of Medicine. 36-year-old Kelly Rowlett got some very surprising news after she had sent a DNA sample off to Ancestry.com, one of the DNA sites that advertises that they can get you information about who your ancestors were, frequently advertising on television and social media. It's the kind of opportunity that you may get asked about as a physician. Is this a good idea? Is it something I should do? Well, Kelly got a surprise. It turns out that a match was found with a physician maybe 500 miles away back in the state of Idaho, and the Ancestry.com folks suggested that she had a father that she didn't know about back in Idaho. This physician apparently used his own sperm to help create Kelly because her parents were having a hard time conceiving her, and so they used a donor, but they didn't know it was going to be this physician. So there are a number of interesting ethical issues that arise from Kelly's case. Obviously, anybody who's going to act as a sperm donor, if they're going to be an anonymous sperm donor, you need to assure a couple that they're truly going to be anonymous. And just saying, well, I'm not going to use my name as the treating physician is not going to work. We've had cases historically where people like Dr. Cecil Jacobson 30 years ago got hundreds of women pregnant using his own sperm at an infertility center. So it's clearly wrong. It's out of bounds. You can't do that. You have to make sure that if it's going to be you as the sperm donor, then the couple has to consent to that. It's also important to realize that when we say someone's going to stay anonymous or going to retain anonymity, in this day and age with DNA testing, that may not prove to be true. DNA testing may turn out, as it happened with this young woman, to give information about who the donor was, whether the donor likes it or not, whether the donor ever gave consent. And I can say with some authority, if somebody chooses to pursue finding out who their parents are, their biological parents, and goes to court to get the right to look at records or see information from the infertility clinic, they are most likely going to win that right. We've seen it in many, many adoption cases where people have been promised anonymity if they put a child up for adoption, and decades later the children show up and say, psychologically or for medical reasons, it's important for them to know who their biological parents are, and they win those cases. And I think we're going to see the exact same thing take place with respect to infertility treatment and donors of sperm and eggs, and embryos for that matter. But perhaps the most interesting issue to come out of this is, if you're asked, what should I say? If somebody says, what about 23andMe, Ancestry.com, or many, many other direct-to-consumer genetic testing services that are advertised? And I do think you have to warn people who are thinking about doing this, look, you may find out if you're Estonian or Lithuanian or come from Gambia or other information about your ancestors, although even that claim is somewhat controversial in that genetic testing among these companies is not always 100% accurate, and some of the ancestry claims aren't well grounded in knowledge about where people were in the past in terms of where they migrated to or where they've come from. So maybe you'll find out something there, maybe you won't. But there are other dangers. You may find out you were born of infertility treatment that your parents never told you about. You could find out information about incest. Genetic commonalities that shouldn't be there may hint that something happened in the past. Maybe the person isn't aware that they could find that out. And you could find out that the racial or ethnic group you think you're from isn't the one that you actually may be from, and that could cause issues and problems depending on how that sorts out. So ancestry testing may sound like fun. There was a lot of advertising of it as a fun holiday or Christmas gift this past year. Give a kit, let people kind of have a good time doing what I call recreational genetics. But there are consequences and there can be downsides, and people need to know that. And physicians, when asked, need to inform people that there may be facts out there lying around in the genetic weeds that you really don't want to find out or need to be prepared to confront should that happen to you. I'm Art Caplan at the NYU School of Medicine. Thanks for watching.